I'm having an incredible chat. This is going to be a wonderful new series on my Performing Arts Review website with mover and shaker Nan Washburn.
Oh,
She, music director and conductor of the Michigan Philharmonic in Plymouth, Michigan. She's going to tell us all about her community, all about her orchestra, all about outreach, all about the wonderful things that orchestra and this wonderful conductor are doing in that community. Nan, a great pleasure seeing you.
finally, after all these years, it's
You
been
know,
a fun time.
you were doing your grad work, I think, at UCSB a long time ago. I only just kind of saw you off in the distance, functioning as kind of an assistant to Richard Rintoul, who was the conductor of the orchestra there for a while. Um, Tell me about this community for. Well, let's talk about the audition that got you the position of music director
Ha!
of the Michigan
That
Philharmonic.
time ago. This is my 19th season. So it was ancient history almost. I was living in Northern California, and people have said, "So why did you choose Plymouth?" And as most conductors know, you go where the job is. And this was not an easy thing because I was the only one. I think there were a couple of others that were in states close to Michigan, but I was in California, and so it was a stretch for them to think about that. I came in, I think I was one of six finalists. You know how those searches go, they whittle it down. And I had the unusual thing of not actually getting to do a concert. Most
Hmm.
auditions you actually do a concert, and I had to do a rehearsal, and then it was down to two people, and then they brought me back a second time in April. The first time was in November of '98, and then I came back again in April. So it was not an easy job to land, and I was really thrilled when I got it. And then I moved to Michigan.
That's a big stretch right there, making that kind of a decision. And as you said, you get the job, you go.
That's right. Cold weather and all. Still don't like
and and let's just I just want to touch on this for a minute. I'm going to send everybody to the wonderful videos that Michigan Philharmonic puts out. You have over the years created a tremendous marketing mechanism with videos that are really dynamic and speak to a lot of things. How did that come about? Did you just run into somebody in Plymouth that was a videographer? What?
Actually, really lucked out. Those videos are done by one of our board members, Ken Kaiser, and he is the father of two of our former youth orchestra members. So he kind of came through the ranks, but he is currently on our board and is a real hotshot for the auto industry. He travels all over the place, and this is his passion. And we are very, very lucky to have him because he brings in like 8 cameras or whatever it is, and unlike what we were talking about, he can edit. So, that is something he is really good at, and he has something called the Nan Cam. So he's got that set up, and it has helped us immensely in getting the word out as to what we do, the strength of our performances, and also a lot of the awards that we've won have come through those videotapes.
Now
So
tell
we
me Tell me a little bit about the musicians that the level of the orchestra in terms of is it semi-professional, is it fully professional? Give me an idea because many smaller orchestras are kind of a combination of the two.
right. Right. Well, this has evolved. We are now a per service orchestra with a union contract. When I came in, it was more community based. I mean, we still feel that we are part of the community. I don't want to make that distinction, but there were a lot of people that did it more for the social value than for the musical value. And honestly, when I came in, quite a few people decided that they wanted more of the social and they didn't want to practice as hard as was asking them to. Because with me came the interest in promoting American music, contemporary music, and that's not. I mean, standard repertoire is very difficult too, but certainly with new music, you have to practice, and so it just as I said, this is my 19th season. Over the course of time, things have just worked in this direction, it doesn't hurt that we are sort of situated between Ann Arbor and the University of Michigan, which has a huge, wonderful music department, and Detroit. So we have, there's a pool of excellent musicians. We do a lot, we have a lot of freelancers that are playing in many different orchestras.
How lucky can you get?
Yeah, that's great.
The other thing is, this is a natural transition that every orchestra that has an intention and a purpose to move forward goes through. I remember when the Santa Barbara Symphony, I'm here in Santa Barbara, was, kind of, how shall I put it, loosely knit back when I was a kid. And sure enough, as an orchestra progresses in its goal, really, which is to offer the finest quality of music to its community, this kind of transition is inevitable. So I salute you.
Well, and I think it's also inevitable if you put an emphasis on education and educational programs that generally have to be done during the day. And that was one of the distinctions that we had. And we do have a very, very large education program. And I think there are 3 or 4 school districts that are now having us play our children's concerts and in-school demonstrations.
Let's talk about that outreach. Give me an overview of how you did, what was there when you arrived in '99 and how it's developed and evolved since.
Well, the year prior to my coming on board, they had just started a in-school 3rd and 4th grade program. It was just very minimal, and they had tried out 1 year of educational programs, a kids concert, but they did some things that were kind of unusual and maybe, in my feeling, not probably as kid friendly as I do. Mother Goose Suite, which sounds like it's a kid's piece, but it really isn't so great for kids concerts, especially 4th graders. So when I came in, I that was one of the reasons they hired me, was that I really, really had already done a lot of kids concerts, commissioning pieces specifically for kids concerts, targeting at that 4th grade level. But the other element that I wanted to bring in was the element of fun and a little bit of the carrot at the end of the concert. Whether it's the Pink Panther or Fairly Odd Parents, or this year's we have The Simpsons is the favorite. But in the middle, we've got Haydn or Mozart and Percy Grainger and lots of different things, and a commissioned piece as well. So we've expanded that a lot. Also, when I was in 2003, so just a few years into the job, I started our youth orchestra. And we started with 7 players. One of them, the daughter of our videographer, started with that group. And it's now 120 kids, I think, in 5 different ensembles. So up until this last year, the last 7 years, I've been conducting that as well. And I finally had to give it up because I just don't have time.
And look, you have just described incredible growth.
Yes.
Starting with 7 kids.
Yeah.
And now you have over 100 involved in, I presume, different levels of orchestras,
Yep.
something like that. Yeah,
We have 3 orchestras, a flute choir, and we've just started a new chamber wind ensemble.
Nice. Let's talk now about audience development. What was it when you arrived? What is it now?
Well, when I arrived, I think they were getting about 100 people per concert. It had really diminished. It's an orchestra that I think this is our 72nd season. So it's been around for a long time, and it actually had a very glorious past and was a very large orchestra, very well attended. I think when I came in, a number of other community orchestras had started up, and it really wasn't any different than them, except it had been around longer. And I really made the point that unless we do something different, it's just going to be like everything else, and there's no place to grow, really. And so the first thing I did is I said, we're going to do American music, and we're going to do contemporary music. And luckily our board president then traveled all over the place for business and had a load of frequent flyer miles. And so I asked him right off, and he still does this, fly in our guest artists and guest composers. And that made a huge difference, bringing in composers to talk about their music. I think the first season there were, again, a few audience members that fell by the wayside because they only wanted music that they knew and older music. But very soon we got people very excited about meeting a composer. I mean, who wouldn't give to meet, be able to meet Beethoven? I mean, but we can't do that. But you can meet Libby Larson, or you can meet Michael Dougherty, or lots and lots of composers that we bring in, and we probably bring in 3 or 4 every year. And it's not necessarily from out of state, because we have a lot of great composers here in Michigan as well.
It's fantastic, and not to get in too much detail, but that was great that you talked to your board president into really helping a lot. That's a lot of money to bring people in otherwise in terms of an orchestra's budget. How about budget? Can you just give me an overview about where do you get your funding sources? How are the grants going? How does that work?
Well, as you know, anything in this business is difficult. It's always a challenge. Certainly, we get more funding because of our education programs. Also because we've emphasized various multicultural programs, so we've gotten some grants from that as well. Individual donors, some very, very prominent donors that have helped us a lot. So when I first came in, the budget was probably, I think it was a little under 200,000, and we keep hoping we're going to get big, 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 but we spend our money wisely, I would say, and make it go as far as we can. But it's a little over 500 at this point, so it's not a huge budget, but we're very, very focused in our energies, and we don't, like, for example, I don't pay very much for guest artists. I just tell people I'm investing it in the orchestra and in the music that we have to rent and various other things. So we stretch it as far as we can.
And the guest artists and composers that you bring in for new commissioned works, they love every bit of it. Tell me about all the awards you and the orchestra have won over the years. Just to give me a little lineup.
Well, I've been doing this for many years, so through many orchestras. I'm sad that they're no longer giving the awards, but ASCAP for many, many years gave awards for adventuresome programming of contemporary music. And all total, starting with the Women's Philharmonic in San Francisco, Camellia Symphony in Sacramento, Orchestra Sonoma in the Sonoma County. And so all total, I've gotten 19 of those. So that's a lot. We've also gotten, I got the American Prize in conducting for myself a couple of years ago. The orchestra's come in a couple times at second place. And then this last year, they made a new award, the Ernst Bacon Memorial Award for Performance of American Music. And even the director of the American Prize said, you probably should apply for that. And we did, and we won. We got the top prize. So that was very, very special, because that's who we are. And that spoke volumes, especially because it wasn't just orchestras. There were like opera companies and other ensembles. Wow. In all competing for this award.
Wow. Congratulations. Brava.
Thank you.
How about how many concerts do you do in a year of just the regular subscription season? Let's add pops and things like that. Well, how does that budget work spread out in terms of concerts?
It's about 8. We fluctuate between 8 and 9, but then we do a fair amount of contracted services where we get either offers to do repeat concerts in a neighboring community, or what's really taken off are the summer programs. We've got a wonderful partnership with the metro parks in the southeast Michigan area, and these are huge, big, beautiful parks. And last year it was their 75th anniversary, so they decided to splurge a little bit, and they hired us for 4 different metro parks. And these are quite a bit of a hike. Sometimes they're an hour and a half away to get to it. And we have to have a stage, lights, sound. Yeah. But one of the parks where we've gone for probably the last 6 years, Kensington Metro Park, last year we drew I think it was 11,000 people. It was huge. And to the point where some of our musicians couldn't get into the parking lot, and they kept saying, "Oh, but I have to play, And that was very exciting.
You are describing, honestly, triumph after triumph after triumph. Now let's talk about the gorilla in the room.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a conductor. I think I can still call myself that a bit, and it's been a very much of a man's world. I can remember not so very long ago when women conductors were, really denigrated.
Hmm.
Now I see all over the United States and Canada as well, really many, many more women conductors. Well, tell me your story. How difficult was it when people in your community said, "What? This is a woman conducting our orchestra"? How hard was that to turn that attitude around?
It's been a challenge. Yeah, and just even given my age demographic, I, I can tell you the war stories way back. Trying to get management, and they go, no, 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 no. We already have our women conductor on the roster, so they would have 20 men, but you know, um, but yes, certainly there was a little bit of concern when I came in. I pulled that out. There was an article about hiring first woman conductor, and there were a few people skeptical, but I have just tried to work just very hard and just do everything I can to just serve the music and serve the community. And at a certain point, they can't tell you can't conduct if you're doing it. And, it's just
It's
so.
the idea of fait accompli.
Yeah, it's just like, okay. I remember one of my first jobs in Sacramento as music director, that my concertmaster told me. She said, well, the word out there is that you became a conductor to show up men. And I said, what? I mean, it just like never ever occurred to me. I mean, this is too hard a business, and you know how hard it is to conduct anything. It, that's all you're thinking about is just doing the thing. So that was kind of interesting, slightly amusing, but not.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring it up because my next interview is with another woman conductor,
Wonderful.
and I'm really thrilled about this transition. And as all will hear when they even come, I'm going to put up your website, all the rest of it, so that they can hear this orchestra. It really comes down to musicianship. If the music making is at a high standard, it doesn't matter
Right.
whether it's a dog, a robot, a man, a woman, whatever. But I myself am, really, really thrilled that this barrier has finally come down, and more so in this
I am
country.
too.
Yeah. So
It's been a transition, and I remember even my early conducting teachers were having a little bit of a struggle as to how I was. I mean, at that time I was so slight and so small. I mean, how to get a big sound, and I could see, the first time I was go in front of an orchestra, and it still happens now. Any new brass player sometime will look at me and think, oh, I don't get to play loud anymore. And then they don't think that at the end of the rehearsal. But I had trouble figuring out with my gestures and such how to make a sound. And it was different for a lot of my male colleagues. Not exclusively. Everybody has to find their own sound with their own body and their own face and I mean, it's so individualized. And I was just happy because just this week, I was contacted by a young woman conductor who wants to study with me specifically because probably she wants some pointers in that direction. So that
excellent,
makes me very happy.
excellent. Uh, have we left anything out? You want to mention anything that I've forgotten to ask you?
Well, just that, with the programming, I am always going for a balance and thematic links to make it very interesting. So if I want to do also women composers, because I
Of
worked
course.
so many years with the Women's Philharmonic, we've done, I think there's over 65 works by women composers in the time that I've been here, over 43 women composers, many of whom have visited. And so that's also become like a non issue here. So my audience doesn't think, "Ooh, there's the woman composer," anymore. That they say that's the woman conductor. It's just that's the Michigan Phil, and that's Nan, and she's doing what she does. So anyway, I'm very proud of the audience coming along, and really looking forward to those new pieces. And I'm actually now figuring out the final touches for the 18-19 season.
Yeah, you have to be a couple steps ahead,
Yeah.
always. Yeah. Nan Washburn, music director and conductor of the Michigan Philharmonic, a woman whom I have watched, as I've told you many times. I think you're an absolutely brilliant conductor. I just love watching you conduct, seriously. It's been a great pleasure, and you are indeed a mover and shaker in your community. I think we're done.
All
Many,
right.
many, many, many thanks, man.
Thank you.